Michael, thanks a lot for joining us this afternoon. Tell us exactly about it. Let's start off from there. What impact will a no deal have on South Africa?
Good afternoon, Faith. Yes, as the Minister has indicated this afternoon in Parliament, but these are the kind of talks that have been going on for the past few months, if not up to a year, since we knew that the UK has made a decision to exit the European Union. So the key concerns if the UK leaves without a deal is that it will be uncertain how our products will enter the United Kingdom. We do know that for the rest of the European market, we have a trade agreement. So when UK leaves, then there is no agreement between the United Kingdom and South Africa, which basically means that the fallback position is to use the WTO's rules, which the tariffs or the cost of doing business is much higher than what we are currently doing with the EU. So that's basically the cost of UK living without a deal. However, as you just said earlier on, the minister, together with the Southern African countries, they made sure that such uncertainty and such concerns are laid to rest for the short to medium term period.
I mean, we're speaking here about the short to medium term. In other words, that now tariffs, for example, were a huge concern. How is you mentioning that goods get, imported or exported to the UK is another point to mention there. And also another issue there was around job security. Let's touch base on that.
Yes. The issue of job security, they also feed back to our, let's focus on the exports for now. So UK, just as a trade partner, is the most important one for South African market. It is one of the top 5 as a country. But within the EU, it's actually even bigger. It accounts for between 20 and 25% of all our exports to the 28 area, to the 28 country European Union. So in other words, if we are to lose that market, that means that the uncertainty, the cost of doing business will fall back to our country. That we will face a situation where most of the products, such as the vehicles that we export through the UK, the agricultural products, both fresh and processed food, they enter into the EU. But the main destination or the main entry point is the United Kingdom. So losing that market will have those kind of implications. The second point is that, yes, I was going to say that, the second point is that the UK sometimes is not always the final destination. The UK may have distributors or businesses that have strong links within the EU, which means that UK becomes an entry point, but then gets distributed to other members of the EU. But then when UK leaves without a deal, that means all those links, they get blocked. So UK cannot take more than it used to.
I mean, obviously, on the other side of it, I mean, the minister was quite clear by saying that this does not necessarily mean that investor confidence needs to be low. In fact, he's actually imploring and encouraging investors to start, being able to be aggressive in the way in which they invest into the South African market, simply because allaying those fears around, a capital investment as a result of this Brexit deal will not be hampered, so to say. Do you think that in that sense that business is actually taking note and listening to this, or do we find that still markets are a little bit uncertain given what's going to be happening in the UK right now and where things are sitting with Boris Johnson?
Usually when decisions such as United Kingdom leaving the European Union, similar to the trade wars that is mentioned or happens, we see between United States and China, it creates an uncertainty. And with uncertainty, people are no longer certain whether they should put money for long term into certain decisions, because those decisions or those profit initiatives, they are based on there being certainty, there being a market. But these kind of situations, as I mentioned, Brexit and China-US war, they interrupt the normal flow of the market, the normal flow of the goods. And investors or any producer, they are very skeptical operating under such circumstances. And the minister talked about people holding back. But now with this kind of short-term to medium-term guarantee, you can expect a response, knowing that between now and up to 2022 and 2024, when we know the full status of Brexit, what it looks like, what does it mean between trade of UK and the rest of the EU, as well as other markets, then more would be clearer, and then we would expect more investments to follow. But the initial step, I think, this will release some of the investment. It will also ensure that people who are not certain about what to do in the context of what's supposed to happen by end of next month, at least they have more light than they did prior to this agreement.
Now, Matlo, I'm not ignorant to the fact that you and I are having a very high-level conversation in terms of the impact that the Brexit deal will actually have on, our current markets, as well as where we're sitting with export-import. But on the other side of it, the question really is, why should the ordinary South African actually care? Why are you and me having this conversation?
Oh, there's a lot to care about. For starters, you mentioned jobs. So if I were to just give one example, such as citrus products, so there are more than 100,000 people who are employed on farms, in pack houses, and throughout the citrus value chain. That's oranges, orange juice making, as well as, other lemons and other citrus products. So more than 40% of those products, they go to the EU. And as I said earlier on, about 20 to 30% they enter through the UK market. So basically you can easily see close to 15 and 20,000 jobs being uncertain if that market were to shut come 31st of October. So ordinary South Africans should care. In the same way that there are products, goods and services that we use, we rely from the imports of the UK companies, and this may be everyday goods that our producers do not produce in sufficient supply for all the demand in South Africa. And those, when they become short, then that means prices start going up, and then we start going into the issues of inflation. So it is very important that people are aware of these developments, that they are going to be affected if something of what the minister presented in Parliament today was not done proactively, let me say.
Matlo, we're going to leave it there for this afternoon. Thanks a lot for joining us, shedding some light in terms of the impact that this no deal or no Brexit deal will actually have on our current economy, as well as how we do business with the UK. We'll be following up that news item as, of course, we anticipate the end of next month.